Alright, so hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Renegade Operative, and I'm here to uncover and unravel all of the information about the Insomniac game's data leak and analyze what exactly is going on behind the scenes and give my own opinion on some of the things that's being revealed. First and foremost, this is criminal, of course. This ransomware leak is not good on all fronts. It might be good for the gamers' excitement, right? We all are giddy to see the future, to see a glimpse under the hood, but in terms of people's personal information being leaked, doxing, passports, all of that shit, I don't condone it. It's not right at all. And if people are weaponizing and using that information and misconstruing how a pre-alpha is for a video game, it's just all sorts of bad across the entire timeline. You know, you will have the Samaritans, of course, that just discuss the leaks and that's it. It doesn't go too far, or they don't show gameplay, or they don't show story details. But you have bad actors as well doing nefarious things, and it should not be condoned or supported if those bad actors are pretty much prevalent in the gaming space. Those people can go burn. But again, I will be covering and analyzing, and every company, of course, that has a leak like this to this significant degree, it's damning. It's damning against them, and I feel bad for the teams that have to witness and go through all this shit and can't really say anything to defend themselves or show anything to confirm more critical spoilers. Like, it's a tough rock and a hard place situation. That being said, I will be analyzing these details, slightly discussing my opinion on them. If you plan to go into the future of Insomniac blind, then this video is not for you. Click off, because we're gonna be getting right into the thick of it, and that's how it's gonna be. Yeah, let's get started with the Spider-Man 2 stuff. Okay, so Spider-Man 2 is going to have a planned strategy. I don't know how old this still is. They had a strategy of post-game content. It was going to be some DLC drops, free DLC drops, which I'm kind of surprised by that. I thought it was going to be paid DLC, just like City That Never Sleeps. But the DLC in question is going to be Beetle Infestation, a free DLC where you do an open world mission and you do a boss fight against the Beetle. Extreme Carnage, open world mission, and you fight Carnage himself, and Spider-Verse Anomaly, which is going to be a crossover with Sony Pictures with the Spider-Verse, and have Spider-Verse NPCs and villains, a Spider-Verse mission, and a special visual filter that is going to be all zany and wild and it's going to look like the Spider-Verse filter that you see in the movies, which I assume is the teleporting filter through differing dimensions. Curiosity also killed the cat. My main interpretation of this is also wondering, will this equate to story DLC? And I don't think that it will. I think it's going to be like a Season of Infamy style event where you get non-canon DLC, non-canon fights, but it turns out to be just overall something to play and maybe witness, and maybe that's like an alpha test for Carnage to get him working and see how his boss fight is coordinated, but they're gonna save the juice for the Venom DLC story-wise. I don't think it's gonna be a same situation as City That Never Sleeps. It's not gonna be similar to that at all. They're going to save all of that for Venom, or this plan might not even happen. It might not even happen to begin with, and they just might do the New Game Plus stuff where Tendril change and changing the time of day and New Game Plus. They might save all that for the Game of the Year edition and rebundle it again. I heard something about them needing to do bundles to recoup because of the Marvel deal, which is something that's going to be mentioned at the end of this video. I wouldn't be surprised or shocked really if they do that, but if they do come out with this roadmap of 3 free DLCs and the New Game Plus edition, and they headed into a Game of the Year edition, then that's what's at the end of the slide, which would not surprise me whatsoever if they do that. I mean, Spider-Man 2 was nominated for Game of the Year. Why not rebundle it again with a Game of the Year edition? Let's move on. I just hope, I hope it's just a little tease of story DLC, but I know we're not getting that if this happens. We're moving on to their future projects, which is massive. Some we already knew about, others not so much. Here we go. First, we have Marvel's Venom in fall of 2025, Marvel's Wolverine in fall of 2026, Marvel's Spider-Man 3 in fall of 2028, a new Ratchet and Clank in fall of 2029. They love their fucking fall seasons, man. God damn. When the leaves fall and her ass starts twerking. No, never mind me. All right. Anyway, new Ratchet and Clank of fall of 2029, Marvel's X-Men in fall of 2030, a new IP in either 2031 or 2032, and the slide apparently comes from this year, because there was a previous blue slide where the dates were 1 year earlier. Like Wolverine was 2025, but this is like 2026. I assume they're taking more time to build and develop these games, which is why they decided to get Wolverine out of the year where it's probably going to be killed by Grand Theft Auto 6, which, you know, people are speculating that, but I think it's to give the games more time of breathing room and development room. And once they finally are released, they'll be a lot more polished. And it even says in the slides, you can take like personal time off, don't burn out. Insomniac is all anti-crunch anyway, which is great for them. What do I think of these dates? You know, to be expected. Some of these are not really a shock. Spider-Man 3, not a shock. Wolverine, we knew about. Venom, we kind of figured after playing Spider-Man 2 and you play as Venom in that small alpha segment of playing with the character. Considering how many spines he broke and how you can crush, kill, and demolish in that entire segment, of course they would warp some fun gameplay around him. I'll talk about the other details a little bit later. There was also, you know, the new IPs being mentioned, and I think there's going to be 2 new Insomniac IPs somewhere around 2030, because in the original we had that new IP being illustrated and established, right? But there was another one. It said new IP 1 and new IP 2 later on down the line. I'm trying to find which year it was. I think it was like 2036, 2035. But that right there shows there's more commitment coming in the future. I know there's like particular criticism of them becoming a Marvel studio, becoming supposedly soulless to Marvel games, and I just think, look, let them cook and do whatever the fuck they want. If they enjoy making a ton of Marvel games, let Insomniac do what they want to do, and you could always play other games by other studios that aren't superhero titles. I think that is common law. You have more than the ability to do that and support other games that aren't superhero games. But for me, the superhero fans, I'm excited for this. Let's move on to, and I'll talk about everything formally and individually one more time before I cast off here, but we got to talk about Wolverine. Wolverine had a lot of gameplay leak, man. I'm talking, it's crazy. He has an arm arrow, so there's gonna be gadgets in this game. You can throw knives at people, you can run on walls and traverse. So it's kind of weird. It's people saying the God of War comparison. It looks like a mixture, a hybrid baby of God of War, a little bit of Infamous stuck in there, you know, with just some of the melees exclusively, or where how it gets like super close and you hit someone with the amp. It's like Wolverine doing that, but countless times with his claws. A mixture of X-Men Origins Wolverine, and I would say it looks like some Uncharted 4 style meleeing in there as well, just with the way it's coordinated and framed. obviously when you compare and contrast, things are different, and you can do lunge attacks, jump on people, finish them. They clearly have the inspired Rage of the Gods influence, where Wolverine gets feral and he tears people apart. There's also like a sniffing mechanic where you can sniff around the environment, and it's sort of reminiscent of Arkham. There's also like traits and DNA of that as well. A little bit of Arkham mechanics with stealth, jumping through trees, tracking people. You can pick up dead bodies and hide them. So clearly Logan goes in loud and he goes in silent, and that's pivotal to the character sneaking around and just gutting people left and right. Dislimbing mechanics, apparently. There's also going to be people's like arms and heads and legs, and it wouldn't be Wolverine without it. It was an entire manifesto leaked showing the suits and progressions, and there's going to be like XP suit mods that you can get, which is once again reminiscent of Spider-Man. You could put that on, get differing abilities, I would presume. We saw Logan use a fucking sword. Like, Wolverine uses a sword. The Wolverine action is rampant because he had a sword in that movie fighting samurais. So that's like so cool. Hopefully you can like dual wield and use like a one-handed claw and the fucking sword at the same time. Bro, that'd be sick. That'd be so sick. Some of the features they have for stealth is like using your sense to track targets, crouch to avoid enemy awareness, hide, you know, the typical stuff that you would see: traversing, jumping around, sprinting, pole climbing, zip lining, using counterweights. It's all just sort of like the stuff you would expect to do with a free roaming adventure Wolverine title. They also talk a little bit about the regenerating health system and how, of course, when Wolverine is wounded, stabbed, cut, shot, the aggression of killing his enemies will regenerate a bit of health the more you recover it. They also have ghost health as well. When Logan is damaged, the health window is recoverable for a short amount of time. They also have his abilities, which we expected them to have, like armor busters, which is probably for the larger enemies, tornado spinning, hitting multiple people at once again is very reminiscent of X-Men Origins Wolverine. The hot claws, which is going to be him going feral and slicing people in half. The shockwave slashes, which I assume are slashes on the ground that will do AoE. You can grab onto people, hold them, throw them into environmental hazards. Once again, reminiscent of X-Men Origins Wolverine Uncaged Edition, man. Woo! State-based attacks. You have context attack from sprinting, parkour, and doing dodges. I see. So maybe counterattacks or dodges or parries, because parry is confirmed in this game, and using environmental hazards as well as traditional light and heavy combos that Wolverine is known for, as he is the best at what he does. There's side content, and then, you know, we got the living memories, so it's puzzles of piecing together what is in Logan's mind, because of course he is an amnesiac. So obviously his time during the Weapon X project is probably going to be explored in the living memories, and I assume there will be flashbacks because of that. You got stuff for like suit crafting, lore items, you could do bounties, and there's obviously jobs for combat, which is going to be pretty cool to see. Now, what they plan to do for Wolverine as part of the mission parameters, and I should read both of these, is going to be a third-person action thriller, wide linear, gory, and story-driven. It's going to have 34 Golden Path missions to obtain, and there's going to be a 16-hour target campaign with survival co-op thrown into the mix as well. What we didn't know from everything that transpired so far is there's going to be a second playable protagonist, and that's going to be Jean Grey. Oh, they're setting up the X-Men so hard with the co-op and the survival mode and playing as Jean, and I think this is the precursor, the test of how do we take these characters from co-op and squeeze in and tease the multiplayer affairs in Wolverine. One thing that people did not point out for their breakdowns and analysis, and this is like extra information, is that Wolverine is planned to be the first entry in the X-Men trilogy. It's going to focus all on him at first. It's going to be his game, his story, his conflict, and as they build up the world, they're going to focus on X-Men. That's why Jean is there doing telekinesis attacks like she's fucking the chick from Control. Just awesome. Like, oh my god, man. As a fan, it calls to me, it orgasms my mind. This is exactly what I wanted. The Wolverine game is the first in a planned trilogy, followed by X-Men. Internally, they called it X-Men 2 and then X-Men 3, which is why in the old steels, you see X-Men labeled as Marvel's X-Men and then X-Men 3 later on. So the Wolverine games, Wolverine is first, X-Men is going to be X-Men 2, and X-Men 3 is going to be the final one. And that's a cool way to do it. Introduce the character, then introduce everything else into the world and environment, and that's gonna be cool. So Insomniac is finishing a trilogy and they're about to start one too. Let's go into Venom. And I like everything so far about Wolverine. Just everything you could do, fighting with swords, fucking people up, like slashing, gashing. Like there's environmental hazards and sort of like breakable environments as well. Oh man, the brutality. The only thing I hope for is that when Logan is more hurt and damaged, it shows, because that's one thing I liked about X-Men Origins Wolverine. When Logan is all cut up and you see his heart and his full-on exoskeleton, I hope they embody that too in real time. Imagine like Wolverine in the cutscene, half his like skull is missing and slowly the skin is regenerating. Oh man, I want to see that in real time. That's awesome. But going to Venom. Venom, the Lethal Protector. Now, as I said before, they're gonna do the Miles Morales thing. They are aiming to do switchable characters, Venom and the Spider Heroes. They're gonna have a 8 to 10 hour standalone experience campaign. It's gonna be Carnage infested NYC boroughs, showing that once again Cletus from the Flame is taking over the entire city. 12 missions, 3 bosses, quests and challenges and bases and crimes and collectibles. It will cost at least $50 and it will release in the second quarter of 2025. The Ultimate Edition, which I assume they would do this, will include Spider-Man 2, and you get the full package. You get the Venom DLC or Venom standalone, and you get Spider-Man 2 and everything else. I'm not surprised by any of this whatsoever. I'm looking forward to it. Venom played really great in Spider-Man 2. He was fantastic to play with. The only thing I ponder about is the story. Which Venom is this? Is still Harry? Harry is gonna be what, an anti-hero now after everything he's done in Spider-Man 2, infecting the entire city, killing people, slaughtering them. How is that gonna work? I don't know. I don't know how you redeem him from being like full-on villain, Venom being full-on villain, to now anti-hero. Maybe the story will explain it. Maybe I'm looking too much into it. Maybe the symbiote will finally get on Brock, and we'll see that. We don't know the full context. I can't really say it's bad just yet, but I am looking forward to destroying and running amok, and instead of capturing the balloons of children, you eat them in Spider-Man. It's just, I don't know, it should have been rated M too. I want to see Venom eat someone's face off. Like, goddamn, bruh. All right, now this is just talking about everything else. X-Men. We're back to X-Men. X-Men. There are some exclusivity and interesting licensing agreements that I'm not going to get into the full nitty-gritty, but it's going to be very fascinating to see the future of exclusivity for X-Men going forward. And there's also like a termination deal if, apparently I heard, if most Marvel games from Insomniac, if they don't sell over 6 million, Marvel can easily terminate and walk away, and it's a compensation fee for that, which is utterly crazy. So it led to the opinion, oh, that's why they sell Spider-Man in bundles, because they want every last drop. It's why Spider-Man 2 is getting an Ultimate Game of the Year edition, because they want every last drop of that money, and it's coming to PC as well. That's a given. That confirms that for us. But the exclusivity clause is the interesting thing. Until like 2036, there can be no collusion for X-Men on any other platform whatsoever. There can be multiplat still, or you can sort of play, multiplat characters in the Marvel family. X-Men can appear in Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, but currently, as it stands, they cannot do exclusive deals like play as Wolverine and Ultimate Alliance exclusively on Xbox. Ooh, another solid deal. Once again, showing that exclusivity definitely matters, and they're trying to attain some of this stuff as soon as possible, because they know they have like big winners and big hits on their hands for the Sony platform, which I'm not surprised they locked down on that for X-Men. It's really not surprising whatsoever. My hope for X-Men is just that it's a very ability based game where you play with like a team. You get the Brotherhood, you get the X-Men, you start like fucking about. I do think that the first X-Men game though that we get from Insomniac is going to be focal to just X-Men only, and then maybe we get to play with the Brotherhood next game, and they mix and match, and they do like an X-Men Legends 2 on us with that game, and they just go full fucking hog. You get like Toad, Magneto, fucking Wolverine, you get the whole lot, Juggernaut. You just start playing with everybody rogue. Woo! Ooh, I need that in my life right now. I just need it. The last thing we need to talk about is just Spider-Man and Ratchet and all that other stuff. So I'm gonna start with Ratchet, because it's not a lot to really talk about other than the fact that people thought they failed in profits. They thought that Rift Apart was not profitable, which is why the new Ratchet is not being done to like 2029. But there was a screenshot, a still saying Insomniac was profitable with Rift Apart. Therefore, it's one of those things where you wait until you get more information before jumping to conclusions. And they're going to focus on more sprawling worlds this time around, and obviously there's still Ratchet there, there's still Rivet there. That story will be still told, but on a bigger, bolder gameplay format, which is good. A lot of people thought that Insomniac was going to kill their mascot IP, and they're still doing Ratchet games. Be happy, it's happening, you know. I still need to pick up Rift Apart myself and play it and have a lot of fun with it on live stream. I enjoyed Ratchet 2016 actually. I really did like that game for what it was, even if they dumped down the humor. I still thought it was fun, fascinating, and cool. And hopefully this new one is a big expansion of that as well, which it seems like it's going to be, considering all the planetary work they're putting into it from the leak. Next up, let's see here. What do we got? Spider-Man 3, the big sequel. The sequel that's going to be the final chapter of Spider-Man. Norman Osborn and of course Octavius, they're teaming up. Obviously they're going to find out Pete's identity. It's going to be a full-blown war of chaos. You'll have Cindy Moon, Miles Morales, and Peter Parker at the forefront, and it's going to be some interesting and maybe devastating consequences to the story. I can't wait, but they know the story is huge, considering that Spider-Man 3 is going to be a two-parter. It's going to be a two-part game, internally at least. Now, things might change. And I also see Insomniac like also factoring in multiplayer. I think this will start with Wolverine, then move on into the X-Men game. And I think there will be Spider-Man 3 multiplayer, considering what we see here. They said multiplayer is going to be day and date, and it's going to be an internal two-part game. This could always change. I don't think they're going to sell it externally as 2 parts. I just have some weird reason that I don't know, unless they know development is going to take long. But I don't know how I feel about the idea of a 2-part game, because while yes, we have multi-part, unless this game's going to be like super fucking huge, and I know the main criticism is going to be, well, part 1, Spider-Man 3, we're going to be left on a cliffhanger. How much game are we talking about here? It better be like, for you to split it 2 parts, it better be like 40 hours long for part 1, 40 hours long for part 2. It's got to be a significantly long game if you're going to do these price points of splitting in half. They say part 1 is going to be like $50, part 2 $50, multiplayer day and date, and a combo later on is going to be like $60. So you're still paying like a lot for both parts either way. Originally they said holiday 2027, holiday 2028, but the updated sheets say is coming out fall of 2028, I believe. I think they're gonna mash both of these parts together and have day and date, co-op, multiplayer, whatever you may name it. There was also going to be a canceled, and I'm looking forward to, oh man, did I mention that Spider-Man 3 is going to have like a large fucking budget, like $400 million? They're up in the ante. I better see completely new animations, expanded burrows. This is definitely going to be like a PlayStation 6 launch title, no doubt about it whatsoever. If you think otherwise, you are severely mistaken, because in order to build out a game like this, yeah, it's got to be a launch title for fucking PlayStation 6. It's no way. It's no way in hell it wouldn't be. The final thing is noticing there was going to be a canceled Spider-Verse game called The Great Web, and you had customization options. There was going to be just a lot of shit to this game, and I think it was canceled silently because the whole Sony games as a service thing is not really working out. Naughty Dog publicly canceled Factions 2, and now this is potentially canceled as well, which shows that once again I think they're cutting it down. Remember, they went from 12 live service titles to 6, and this is a prime example of that. This is a victimized complex of that, cutting down the notion, because they know their bread and butter is single player. It's not a proven breadwinner for Sony to be excelling at a games as a service multiplayer when it's not been proven for them, and it's a market that's not working for a lot of other developers. You can't be Fortnite, you can't be fucking Call of Duty all the time. They want to replicate, often they want to replicate it is barely duplicated. It looked cool though, I'm not gonna lie. I wish I could show you the concept arts of things where you could change your face on a particular Spider character. Spider-Gwen was in there. Fuck. Fuck. Gwen and all that ass is gonna be missed, man. Damn it. Just all that. A peek into the future. Venom Sandman, that was originally planned to be a concept in Spider-Man 2, but it was going to come back in the new Spider-Verse game, and we're not getting that. Hopefully, again, studios should do tacked on multiplayer. I think that is the savior going forward. Not spending a lot of money, but giving like replay value you could experiment and toy around with and play with to your own leisure. Anyway, I am Renegade Operative. I'm signing out. What I think of the overall league, nothing but fascinating ideas, really. I want to see them all in motion, and that Wolverine gameplay is looking fire. And honestly, it sucks for Insomniac. It sucks to be in this position, but overall they turned me into more of a believer of their company with this in mind. Like, I'm looking forward to this whole slate, honestly, and I want to see what those new IPs look like going forward into 2030. Anyway, I will see you guys next time. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and once again, Bub, take care of yourself. Later.